Sure. Today we're talking about money and marriage. Kind of an interesting topic, especially since I have 6 daughters. 6 daughters and 1 son. So I have some different, maybe some I have my own views. Let me just share just a couple of thoughts on equality in marriage. This is Elder Tingy. He said this: you must not misunderstand what the Lord meant when Adam was told he was to have a helpmeet. A helpmeet is a companion suited or equal to the other. They walk side by side, not one before or behind the other. A helpmate results in an absolute equal partnership in good husband and marriage. There's another thought from Elder Oates about some people condemn even her posterity because of the choices made in the garden. And Elder Oates said this: he says, some Christians condemn Eve for her act, concluding that she and her daughters are somehow flawed by it. On the Latter-day Saints, informed by revelation, we celebrate Eve's act and honor her wisdom and courage. A great episode called A couple of other thoughts. Ruth Hayden said this: Genesis 3:16 states that Adam is to rule over Eve, that this does not make Adam a dictator. Over and rule over uses the Hebrew bet, which means ruling with, not ruling over. The concept of interdependent equal partners is well-grounded in the doctrine of the preserved gospel. When equal rights amendment was coming around, my sister used to say, why do we want to be equal when we're superior already? I've known my wife and my 6 daughters. They are very good at what they do. They're very good at everything. Okay, a couple of administrative matters. Because we have a speaker on Monday, and Monday's presentation was supposed to be in the quiz that we would start. Actually, what we'll do is we'll open the quiz probably tomorrow, but it won't be due until a week from the Monday we come back. So you have all of Thanksgiving to work on that. That'll give you a little bit more time. How many people are not going to be here on Monday? Just out of curiosity. So a few of you. Okay. We have a speaker. We have Kirk Johnson, who does estate planning. Those who aren't going to be here, watch the video because it's important to learn how to calculate the different estate taxes. One other thing, our last money-wise event of this semester will be tomorrow night, so we encourage those to come. Again, it's over at the Wymount Terrace Church. The address, we've already sent you the address too. Again, if people would like to also continue helping with those church in that pilot program, you're welcome to sign up on that in the Google Docs, and we're continuing to do those as well. Anything else we need to talk about as a class? Yes.
So that quiz, let's do the Monday following Thanksgiving break. We're going to have today's and not Monday's.
Actually, today's discussion will be on the last quiz.
Okay, we'll have Monday's.
Yeah, we'll have Monday's discussion. Yes.
When will that quiz be available?
Probably Friday. It's going to be a day. I'll tell you what, I'll try to have it available by tomorrow. That's the problem with you. Always ahead of everybody else. Okay. Let's start with what's due on your personal financial plan. See if I can find the remote. It's just like home. Fight over the remote. Well, not too successful. Okay, for this section with your personal financial, right in front of you. Section on your personal financial plan. What you need to do is you'll just open up Learning Tool 21, and what it is, it's about 20 different questions. Questions on how your parents handle family finances. How do they think about investing? How do they think about savings and budgeting and things like this? As we work to come, as you go from a single person to a married couple, how you were raised has a big impact. So what we need to do is just try to understand. Ideally, if you could sit down and talk with your parents about some of these things and ask them some of the questions, that can be helpful. It may be a sensitive subject and they don't want to do that. I don't want you to cause problems, but if you can kind of get input onto it, it would be good. So how did they family handle finances? How did they teach you financial responsibility? How did they prepare you for missions and education? The action plan is how will you handle finances in your family? How will you teach your children? how you change your children's, save for your children's education and vision. When I was a kid growing up, my dad, he'd look at me and he said, Larry Feldway, Brian, can you come here and do this? And I told myself I would never do that. And now I do that with my kids. So thankfully I only have one son, so I don't get his name wrong very often, but it's the other kids that I do. But you come to realize that in a large degree, we become our parents to a large degree. And so the challenge when you're married is how do you take two people who have different experiences and how do you move that into a single one. Let me start with just some jokes. Again, half of these are, the first half are jokes with women, second are jokes with men. I'm trying to have an equal one. But I think hopefully we can sense a little humor in marriage. It says a successful man is one who makes more money than his wife can spend. A successful woman is one who can find such a man. To be happy with a man, you must understand him a lot and love him a little. To be happy with a woman, you must love her a lot and not try to understand her at all. A woman marries a man expecting he will change, but he does not. A man marries a woman expecting she won't change, but she does. There's two times when a man doesn't understand a woman. They are before marriage and after marriage. Two things are necessary to keep one's wife happy. One is to let her think she is having her own way, and the other is to let her have it. A woman worries about the future until she gets a husband. A man never worries about the future until he gets a wife. So we're thinking about the women now. Here's the men ones. There's a difference between men and government bonds. Bonds mature. Before marriage, a man will lie awake all night thinking about something you say. After marriage, he'll fall asleep before you finish. Any married man should forget his mistakes. No use in two people remembering the same thing. Men with pierced ears are better prepared for marriage. They've experienced pain and bought jewelry. How many men does it take to change a roll of toilet paper? We don't know. It's never happened. A man is incomplete until he's married. After that, he's finished. So, they're fun and they're thoughtful. I was the last of 6 boys to last child in my family to get married. And things my brothers told me when I was single, it's never too late to back out. It's not often you find a girl with good looks and bad taste, or good looks who's blind. Your wife was killed in war in heaven. We've all been through these. So I was a menace to society for 5 years before I got married. But let me finish this little section here with just a story. A man was on the beach and he saw this lamp. He thought, I wonder if this is a magic lamp. So he picked it up and he rubbed it. The genie came out. The genie was just angry. He said, leave me alone. You have one wish. Take it or leave it. And I'm done for. Understand. The guy thought, this genie's pretty crazy, but I'll take a wish. So he thought, what would he really like? And he thought, I really hate to fly. How about a bridge between San Francisco and Hawaii? The genie goes, do you know how much it would cost? Do you know how much steel and how much cement? You know how deep that water is there? You really know? No way. Give me another wish. The guy started thinking a minute. He says, all of a sudden his eyes brighten. He says, I know. I want to understand women. The genie goes, well, that'd be too late for us. So, we're different. And the differences can be wonderful. It can be challenging and things like that. One of the big challenges is, what happens when you go from a single person and then all of a sudden you're married and you have to think in a different way. The framework. So what's the changes in the decision process? Clark, how hard or what were the big changes you had to make going from a single person to married?
Well, I think it's easy to just assume that whatever's important to me will be the same, and that's rarely, if ever, going to be the case unless you've sat down and discussed it. And so, just realizing that every decision is a group decision. There's no decision you make that is just you.
Yeah, every decision is a group decision. Amy, let's hear your side.
I don't know, I agree with what Clark said. It's a lot easier to make decisions for yourself.
It's a lot easier to make decisions for yourself.
I think one thing I've noticed about being married, you tend to focus more on long-term goals and it's hard to like focus on long-term goals. I don't know.
Okay. So it's a little easier once you're married to focus on the long term. I like the framework. Instead of I and me, it becomes us and we. And it's a challenge. Where before the goal was to be a wise steward, what we're working on now is how do we develop a unified and consecrated stewardship of our financial resources. Now unity becomes very important. And that's a challenge. How do you unify two people that have different backgrounds, different cultures, different birth orders, different places, different experiences? And the challenge is just because I was raised this way doesn't mean that that's the way we have to do it. As Clark said, we tend to think that everybody thinks the same way we do because that's the only background information we have. And we have to work on it. Thankfully, we have a standard for our families and for our marriages. But I like this. Fathers and mothers are obligated to help one another as equal partners. This morning at 5, my wife and I got up, and at 5:30 we were running down Foothill. Really walking down the hills. We walked down the hills, and then we run, and we walk back up the hill. But I'm realizing how nice it is to have someone who's my equal, probably my superior, because we sit and talk about things. I can't imagine having to make all the major decisions in the family and feel that I was responsible for those. And it's so much nicer to have an equal partner that can share ideas and we can run ideas back and forth. How important are equal partners in marriage? What do you think research has found? When marriage partners are equal, do you think the marriage improves, or does the marriage is it better on the marriage, or less? Is it worse on the marriage? Yeah, much better. How about the children? Children of a marriage where the parents are equal partners. Let me just share some research. This is Equal Partnership in Marriage by Valerie M. Hudson and Richard B. Miller. So social science research supports the prophetic instruction that couples who have an equal partnership have happier relationships, more effective parenting practices, and better functioning children. Isn't it interesting? It's not just, when we have equal partnership, it's not just better marriages, but better functioning children. Scholars have consistently found that 1, equal partners are more satisfied and have better overall marital quality than couples where one spouse dominates. 2, equal partner relationships have less negative interactions and more positive interactions. 3, equal partners are more satisfied with the quality of the physical intimacy in their relationship. 4, parents with high relationship equality are more likely to work together as a team in parenting their children. And 5, these benefits of partnership to marital relationships and parenting practices create a healthier environment for children, making them less susceptible to depression, anxiety, drug abuse, and delinquency. So, we've got the spiritual side that says equal partners are important. We've got the research, the social research that says it. Let me just share a few thoughts. Some people think that the husband presides doesn't mean that he has the final say. After everything's said, he gets to make the final decision. Isn't that kind of the way we do it in our councils in church? Is the family similar to our councils in church? The answer is no. Not a president or a vice president of the family. They are on equal footing. They plan and organize the affairs of the family jointly and unanimously. I hear about how the first presidency in the form of the 12 apostles. They don't make any decision unless they do it unanimously. Shouldn't that be kind of the example that we set for us? I like this other thought. Adam is to rule over, but this doesn't make Adam a dictator. And actually, Adam is to rule with. As we take these, understand the scriptures in our leaders' council, all of a sudden, I think it makes a more balanced picture. Let's start with a case study. I received permission to use this. Someone just sent me this email. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I just started this section on money and marriage. You know, they say fools go where angels fear to tread. Our discussion here is probably liars. I'd like you to read this. How would you respond? First of all, who do you think the writer of this email is? The husband or the wife? How would you respond? Does it seem pretty cut and dried? Is the writer fairly eloquent? I think the pathway of applying correct principles leads right to the doorway of contention. I think that's poetic. I think they're quite good in what they write these skills. So we've got a very educated one. What's kind of the sense you feel? First of all, thoughts? Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, in the second paragraph down there, it kind of seems like she's saying that, without saying it, that I'm in the right because I want to save and do the things that I think are important, like you said, and then, but my husband wants to spend. And so kind of trying to be like nice about saying, I think I'm right and my husband needs to change his opinion, but...
Why would she write me? I'm nobody. I'm just a teacher.
Well,
What's she trying to do?
She might be looking for validation.
Looking for validation. So I got this little email, so I sent her my thoughts. The presentation we got. And here's the second email I got. Doesn't the husband's idea win by default if he's the wage earner? Doesn't the wage earner get to decide how the money's spent? There's a common term for that. Hold on, Mike's just really good. Mackenzie.
I was just going to say, it sounds like whoever's writing this email is trying to use you in their arguments with the spouse to say, well, see, look what this said. And so instead of trying to understand the other spouse's point of view, where they're coming from, why they believe the way they do, they're just trying to win an argument and involve outside sources to help them win the argument. So they're going about it the wrong way. Instead of understanding, they're trying to fight.
What are some? Oh, here's the second page in this one here. What do you notice from the challenges in this? Do they feel like equal partners? So these are the kind of problems and challenges you will have, either in your marriage or trying to help other people. So what I'd like to do today we'll try to give you some insights and some thoughts to help you as we go through this. You know, one of the things I've learned in my marriage is, number one, is you always assume your spouse is doing the best they can, based with their knowledge and their information. And I found, too, is we can always try to look at the other person the way Heavenly Father does. We'll make much better decisions. I wish there was someone who could kind of lock these in place. Okay, it's not quite what I was trying to do. So the question is, what are some of the challenges in money and marriage? Now let's give everybody, let's have you spend a minute or two in your groups. What's the joke? Before I was married, I had 7 theories and no kids, and now I have 7 kids and no theories. You know, so let's spend a couple minutes in our groups, and then let's just talk about what are the challenges. Because once we understand the challenges, then we can kind of work toward what are the principles, and then what are the recommendations. So we can. Thankfully, here we have a lot more married people in this class. Okay, so let's take a couple of minutes.
Whether it's one goes up to the church or not, or whether
Unfortunately for me, my wife, her dad is my life, my dad is neither of us are It's a win-win situation.
maybe one came from coming up a lot of money. That would be a challenge.
By talking about goals together, I think it'd be really important to say, like, we have to that we don't want to spend more
We both might be in the same word. Oh yeah, we should both. We both agree that you should save.
And even I think like my wife has become more of a spender because she's more professional.
Your concept of saving is not the same as my concept of saving. At first you agree, so you might not take the conversation further, but you should talk about what does that look for you.
Okay, let's share some of those. What are the challenges? Andrew?
I found that one challenge is that 2 wrongs don't make a right.
What do you mean by that?
I've had times where, like with the discretionary budget, being like, oh, I want to get this thing. And my wife's like, well, if you're going to get that, then I'm going to get this. And I'm like, I don't know if that's how budgeting works. You have 100, so I get 100 and you get 100. It doesn't really pan out.
So the challenge is reconciling how do you reconcile 2 different opinions? And because there's not a president and a vice president, there's not one who has, okay, I get my way. And the challenge becomes is what happens when some spouses say it's my way or the highway. We've all heard that one.
So my wife thinks that I know a lot, which I don't, and she always wants me to make all the decisions about like personal financial type stuff because I'm the accounting business guy.
What's the risk? What's the risk of that?
Well,
I'm flattered.
well, I think it leaves us susceptible to not making the best decisions because we're not taking all parties' interests into account enough.
You know, in case with my wife and I, she often has insights that I don't have. And it's always nice when you can have two people looking at the problem instead of just, one person. How does it feel when you have to make all of these decisions yourself? Is there frustration and more pressure and things like that?
Well, I generally don't let that happen. I just kind of like say, no, we both
Okay.
do this stuff.
One of the challenges, I think, when the spouse or the wife and the husband, they come from different backgrounds
Okay.
with relating to money, maybe one like more affluent, one not, and they have different ideas on money and how it should be spent.
Economic. I mean, really think about this birth order. I look and see how, we have 7 kids in my family, and then my parents, my siblings, and then plus 7 kids in my family, and seeing how birth order has an impact. Economic, experience, culture too.
Oh, yeah.
All of those things have an impact, and it can make it challenging. And then you just have to realize that, hey, how you lived in the past is not indicative of how the decision you're going to make in the future if you choose to change. Derek.
Well, I actually have a similar kind of thing with Stuart, is that my wife, she doesn't think she understands financial things, and it's kind of intimidating to her, and so she doesn't want to be involved, and whenever we try to talk about it, she's trying, it's kind of the same thing, it's like, oh, you just know this, and I'll just trust you, and I would like her to be involved.
Yeah. And so part of this is communication. Do you talk different to your spouse than you do to a colleague at work? Actually, you have to, because she's an equal. Here at work, when I have something I need to do, I'll figure out all my reasons, I'll get my most important reason first, and then I'll kind of go through that. When I'm home talking to my wife, I communicate differently, because she's an equal. She's a peer. So that communication is a critical one. And how do you teach? What are the odds, men, that you're going to die before your spouse? About 85%. Shouldn't we make sure then that we're living in such a way that each of you understand all the different pieces? Okay, other.
Yeah, this kind of goes into different backgrounds a little, but I think, so my wife and my family were both from Utah, so we're really close. And each family has different spending habits. And so really also being able to adjust to spending habits and expectations of the extended family as well. So at least that's what we have.
Yeah. Expectations.
I think also levels of financial education are very different. I was reading the Wall Street Journal this morning that we might be the richest country in the world, but we're only like we're way down, like number 14 when it comes to financial literacy. So like most people don't know what we learn.
So that way it makes it easy for me to save you guys $1 million.
I think that all of these challenges, they come to a head, or they get brought to the surface if you have a period of unemployment or a job change, where, because as long as you sort of have an increase in income, you can have sort of these underlying issues that never get addressed because, well, there's always a little bit more money with each raise.
Right.
And maybe that's not a good thing for them to just be hidden by that you're, in a little bit better financial position here. But I think that they definitely come up and become stronger when you, if you ever go down. Because there's that sort of ratchet in lifestyle.
So you have to come back.
We're used to it going up, and we aren't okay with it going down.
Yeah. So those are challenges. Other? Yes?
It's kind of up there, but one thing with my wife and I is that we struggle to come to an agreement on what's a need and what's a want sometimes. So I'll see something as a need and she doesn't see it as mandatory, and vice versa.
And in our case, it is clothes versus tools. I see tools as a need. Every time I need a tool, it's a need. I don't see that. Other challenges.
Costco. Talking about my dad once, and we were going over the family budget, and he pointed to this giant bar, and he said, "That's the black hole of the family budget." So.
The point here is you really need servings for 48. So we got some good ones here. Take one more. Go ahead, Eric.
At least me and my wife, we look at money fundamentally different, especially in terms of how we spend it. Like, I look at, am I willing to pay, and I come up with an amount for this, and she just looks, well, it looks like it's on sale, so it must be right. And I'm like, I wouldn't pay half of that price if you said it was on sale.
Yeah. If you weren't gonna buy it in the first place, are you actually saving money when it's on sale? A lot of it's perspective. Nate?
I guess one more trope there would just be different expected lifestyle. Like when you get married, the lifestyle that you want to have is like very early in the day.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I know you want to be done, but I have one. One thing we struggle with is dedicating time to planning these types of things. You get caught up in the busies of daily life and you don't focus on this.
You're so busy doing the urgent that you don't have time for the important. And what we recommend here is every week you have what we call a council meeting. You can call it anything you want, but where you sit down and you kind of talk through these issues. Again, the advantage with my wife and I is every morning, 3 times a week, we're walking up Quail Valley. And those we're running our things. We actually walk up the hills. We try to run, but we don't do very well. But we have time to talk. We talk as we're going up there. We talk about our kids. We talk about our finances. We talk about these things here. But having time together where you can communicate and communicate it as equals, where you can kind of address issues is really important. So let's think about too. So if these are the problems, and I'm sure we go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. So I understand like the benefits of including both partners in this. Like I'm totally in agreement with that. But I wonder, to what degree should you specialize in exchange? Like I know I'm a little bit better with like financial things, so I can take like a greater knowledge on that and have my wife take a better knowledge on other things and then come together. Like to what degree is it okay to like have individuals allocated to different needs?
Thoughts? Mackenzie?
My dad is an accountant, and my mom was a history major and does substitute teaching. But my mom does the majority of budgeting and check balancing and all that other stuff. And they started out doing that way so my mom could learn how to do it. So my dad played a role and they kind of pushed it off to her. So I think they benefited each other in their knowledge where, he helped her learn more about that and now she, takes care of it. So they mutually benefited each other in that knowledge. So I think if you're stronger in one area, it might be beneficial to let your spouse do that so they can learn how it works instead of you just taking it over.
It's a wise father there. It's our responsibility. Just because we know more, just because we've taken this class, does this mean we have the right to do all the finances in the family? Do you guys really want to do all the finances in the family? My wife, we just got married. We went to school at George Washington University. And I wasn't sure my wife was doing a good job on the checkbook. And I said, hey, do you mind if I take the checkbook over for a while? She says, sure, she can. I had never seen her move so quickly. 6 weeks later, I was on, on bended knees saying, hey, will you take this back? This is just too much work. In my experience, in my family, my wife said, okay, you can do that. You can do the investments. So I did those, and needless to say, I didn't get her input. And finally, she said, well, do you mind if I take a look at it? Sure. I said, sure. She came back and she says, you're investing in all these actively managed funds. They're paying huge distributions, and your returns are not better. The returns aren't very good. So because she had oversight over the things that we had oversight, we talked about it, we kind of changed our strategy. I used to think that, I worked for Montgomery Asset Management. I was kind of being the company man by investing in Montgomery products. So I invested in their small cap and their international and emerging markets, which I did. She said, some of these just aren't being invested. So we kind of went through and did it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with one person taking that, but in Mackenzie's case here, having the person who is not as strong in that area, it's not a bad idea. I was doing the CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. I was doing it with a bunch of my students when I was teaching at George Washington University. And so what we did is, the areas you were strong in, you let someone else. So we divided the readings into each of the categories. And then each of us took the areas we were weak in. My area I was weak in was economics and accounting. So I did all the readings there, and then other people in the equity analysis and things like that. And that framework allowed me to build my strength, build up weak areas and to become strength. Other thoughts on how you have good ways to do that? Bridget? Eric?
Just carrying on, I don't, really, we don't know like when one class is passed away.
No. And there's different ways you can teach it. You can teach it in family home evening. You can read something and discuss it. The important thing is you do. Again, the odds are 85% that I'm going to die before my wife, so you can be sure that I'm trying to make sure that she understands, understands investments and retirement and insurance. I have the benefit that she sat through my class, so that's kind of unique for me. I think you got a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say also, sometimes we overestimate our intelligence, underestimate the intelligence of our spouse. Because I'm in the same situation, I'm the accounting major, and, we're coming up on 5 years of marriage, and until this class, I don't think we really ever talked about money, I did it all. But ever since this class started, we've sat down every Sunday for at least an hour and talked about finances, and we've accomplished more financially and saved more in the past 4 months than we did in our entire 4 prior years of marriage.
So you've accomplished more because you sat down. How often did you have your meeting again? Say it nice and loud.
We have it every week.
Every week. What time?
Usually after we get home.
I'm trying to get after church. And you've accomplished how much? I'm trying to emphasize. So you've accomplished more in the last 4 months.
We saved almost 1,000% more in the past 4 months than we have our entire marriage.
A man with a plan. A man and a couple with a plan. Okay. So you're familiar with this. We do this a lot. We've got the problems up there. Now what I'd like to do is let's talk about what are the principles that we follow to help us to eliminate the challenges we have in money and marriage. And what are the recommendations you have that we can share with the class? So principles, recommendations. Now, the assumption you might read is just because you read the book or you just saw my PowerPoints that you know all the answers. The assumption is that my principles were the right one. And you got to realize that last night I added and notice there's 11 principles there now instead of 10. So these things change. And after our discussion today, I may change them again. But the point is, what are the principles that if we follow will help us to be successful in establishing and maintaining our families? So when we take a couple of minutes, let's talk about it in our groups, and then we'll share those on the board. I'm going to hand out our standard, which is the confirmation best.
I did not memorize them. Your spouse,
So reconcile. I think the difference is like recognizing the difference between like you say, but at the same time, do you guys have a skateboard?
They're all the same, just different colors. I don't know, you're welcome. I still have mine from last time. All of that.
So I guess the size together.
I really understand why.
White stuff.
That means it was a judge. I think I read Problem was we're the
Well, for example, here's one of the family is ordained of God. I think that's a pretty important principle. Okay, want to share some of the principles? What are the principles that you came up with? And let's have each group come up with one or two principles and then a recommendation. You want to volunteer first? Okay.
So, one thing we grew out was transparency.
What do you mean by transparency?
Being very open with every decision that, I guess, if you're getting married, every decision that you have made and every decision that you will make in the future. So before you make a purchase or before you make an investment, you talk with your spouse.
Talk with your spouse. It's very interesting that in our case, we made a decision except for things like, that we planned for like groceries in our budget. Anything over a certain dollar amount, we always had to make a call. So if she was going to spend over a certain dollar amount for something, she would call me and say, hey, is this okay? I was going to buy a tool or something like that, I'd call her and say, yeah, that was okay. So that transparency, you want to be open. You never hide any assets or liabilities. You never do that.
Along with that one, I feel like trust is another really big principle. One thing that we struggled with is, people will tell us, talk to each other before you make purchases. And we both just hated that. Like, we're adults, we can do our own thing. We really have to call each other when we make purchases. But I think it just comes down to trust. Acting in a way that your spouse will trust you, and then trusting your spouse will.
I actually think accountabilities are important too.
Yeah.
Because too many times people say, well, just trust me. And then their view is something is important and they go out and spend the money for it. And then you come back and the other person says, I don't think this was a good choice. So that communication, again, that communication is critical.
I have a recommendation to go with the trust idea. For some friends of ours have a spending budget every month, so they don't have to talk about what they're doing with their $50 or $100 or whatever it is. They just have that budget.
And I think that's a good idea. We've done similar stuff. Notice that the wife's is about 3 times bigger than the husband. There's a certain amount of money every month that you can spend that you're not accountable for. You can spend it any way you want.
And they often don't end up using it. Having that allocated gives them the freedom to make those decisions.
And I think it's kind of like Alex said. With some of it, you don't want to be held accountable, and others you don't. And then with big ticket purchases, our view is unless it's in kind of our annual budget, we don't do it. Other recommendations. Let's go from this side. Zach, what did you guys come up with? A principle to help us to be wise in our finances and our marriages. Which you can help them out.
What was one? Drawing a blank.
Okay, Lindsay.
I was looking at the financial problems or a behavioral problem, not a money problem.
Yeah. I used to travel. I'd spend 3 weeks, and I'd go to Asia or Middle East or emerging Europe. And often what had happened, I'd come back and my kids would have new bicycles. My kids have this, and my kids have that. What I realized is when I left, it was frustrating for my wife to have to watch all the kids for that time period. And sometimes the financial side went in. So we actually went through and we talked about this and how that happens, and the importance of the need to stay within the budget. Things of the time. Any recommendations, Lindsay?
Well, just sticking to a budget, I think, deciding together.
Okay.
That's going to be.
Clark.
I was thinking a principle that undergirds everything is obviously personal responsibility, stewardship, and the recommendation. I mean, if you have spouses that have different levels of financial education, you could teach each other, but you also could go out and take a class or try to get some more, whether it's online or at some sort of seminar, you could increase your level of financial education. Or you can marry any content.
You married the company. So you did the latter part.
Yeah, I did that.
And realize the importance of education too. Having family home evenings on these subjects, taking classes on these subjects. The church is going to be coming out with their financial self-reliance classes, taking those things. I think those would be very, very useful things to do. Other principles. Yes.
I like the idea of, so we talked about some of the challenges that come from different backgrounds where you were raised thinking one thing about money and you come together, and you talked about in the slides how, going forward you can establish a clean slate and establish some rules, principles, and guidelines together, and you don't have to let how you were raised or your past understanding of finances dictate how you think of it going forward.
And because of this, I think it's a good idea, that Learning Tool 21, if you're married, have your spouse fill it out too. Because that way it'll give you an understanding on how they were brought up and how their parents view things. Because the goal is, again, as you said, we're not dictated by our past. We're dictated by our goals. McKinsey.
I think on recommendations, one is prayer.
Okay.
I think a lot of the problems in marriage itself, but also in money in marriage, is that there's a lack of compassion, understanding, and compromise. And I think prayer will put couples in the right mindset to be able to have all those Christ-like virtues.
I like that framework. God, spouses. Realize as we get closer to God, we get closer to self. And really, I think that's a principle. Principle two is change. We know from the scriptures, not one of us is perfect. Not a single person. Not even Nathan. Although he's pretty close. But the point is we have to be willing to change. We have to realize we don't know all the answers. One of the things I like to do, is I've learned in my marriage, is that you always have to assume your spouse is doing the very best they can based on their knowledge and their education. Sometimes I wonder how they can think this way. And then I realize as long as I assume that they're trying their best, my spouse is assuming that I'm trying the best, at least we're on a common ground. And then we can work things out. Prayer is really important. Prayer, attending your church meetings, attending the temple. One great thing is just spending time in the temple every week or every month, depending on what you're schedule. Other principles.
We talked about how financial security has very little to do with how much you make and how much to do with how much you spend.
Yeah. What are the things that we can control? Can we control spending or income better?
Well,
so these are good. Any other recommendations? So a spending budget that you don't have to be accountable. Talk about education. You want to bring God into our finances.
And have fun with it.
Yeah.
I mean, a
lot of finance has a very especially personal finance can have a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we have to make a budget. It's like a negative thing. But if you make it an enjoyable experience, it can make the whole thing a lot better.
My wife and I, what we do is once we hit a goal, we do something fun. Like, goal for our private portfolio, we'll do something fun. Again, part of it here is the recommendations. If unity is so critical to this, if our goal is a unified and consecrated approach, we've got to work on being unified. And how do you do that? You do the same things that you did before you were. Again, a date every weekend is a fixed and not a variable expense. My wife and I would go out to dinner for $10. We share half, and we'll go see a movie. It could be like the dollar movie, or we could $1 movie place. But do that, and then I also recommend every quarter that you get by, just the two of you, just go for a weekend, something fun. And then once a year, I recommend that you guys go for 3 or 4 days. Part of my reason for that is because my parents used to do that. One year they'd go to Mexico, and the next year they'd go to Hawaii. And I didn't understand the importance of that until my mom passed away when I was 18. And then I was really glad that they had those times. So don't always be waiting for times in the future. And a lot of these things you can do very reasonably. Okay, other principles. So let me just share a few principles that I've come up with that I think are important. Number one, families are big. We know that. We know the importance of the family. So thankful for that proclamation on the family. It's so clear and it's concise. I would encourage everyone to memorize that. Successful marriages are made on these foundation character traits. What are the foundation character traits? You know there's 9 that are right in the proclamation on the family. What are they? Faith, prayer, repentance, forgiveness. Repentance, forgiveness, respect, love, compassion, work, and wholesome recreational activities. For those of you who are married, hopefully over Thanksgiving, you're going out and having some wholesome recreational activities. As soon as class is over on Monday, I'm taking my kids and we're going to the beach in California. We're going to Pismo Beach. We have Thanksgiving on the beach with a number of my brothers and my sister and their families. But it's important. And realize too, and my wife and I, we found that the important thing is making memories with our children, not buying things. And so if we can do that, we can do so much better. No one's more important than your spouse. Does your spouse feel that way? All my wife has to come to do is she says, Brian, I feel like I'm the lowest item on your to-do list. And all of a sudden I feel about this tall. And then I start saying, okay, let's see if we can kind of work with that. Marriage partners are equal. Partnerships seek unity in the best interest of the family. I love the scripture that says, Christ doing nothing save it be in the best interest of the family. So if he only does things that's in the best interest of his children and his family, shouldn't we be the same? Financial problems are usually behavioral problems, not money problems. We can and must change to be and to do better. None of us are perfect. We've all sinned. So if we can take that, if we can be humble and teachable, then we will learn so much more. Money spent on things you value leads to satisfaction and accomplishment. Get a kick out of my brother he and his wife are on a mission in Nauvoo right now. He said the happiest moment was when I bought my yellow truck. The second happiest moment was when I sold it. Isn't it interesting? But if we have common goals that we've worked on with our spouses, then we can do so much better. Financial freedom, more the result of just decreased spending and increased income. Lead their parents to become one, and the best things. again, I'm not a marriage counselor or anything like that, but is in my experiences with 7 kids and all of these things help. If we can be humble and teachable, if we can remember to look at our spouses the way Heavenly Father does, if we can always assume they're trying their best. If your spouse always assumes that you're trying their best, then you've got a common base that you can work on. And then if we open the lines of communication, it can make such a difference. So let me just share a few thoughts in addition. Again, no family therapist. The teacher and ideas can be very dangerous things. Number 1, delegate action but share responsibility. In our question here, we said, well, if one person's better, shouldn't they do it? I like Mackenzie's dad. If one person's better, let the other person do it, and they can learn and you can help and share ideas. Again, what we don't want to do is we don't want to abdicate responsibility. What you want is you want 2 people looking at the same problem and giving 2 different views. Number 2, make sure you all assets and liabilities. Make sure you have all the necessary documentation. Putting together a love note for your kids and what it is. It's every, as you're getting older like me, I realize that I'm not going to live, a long time. But having a love note, which is this is all our assets. This is where they are. Just so once you pass away, then everyone will know exactly where they are. Hide no spending, hide no assets or liabilities. Again, back to that trust. Major decisions must be unified and agreed on beforehand. Again, no big purchases unless it's in your annual budget. Set a limit over which purchases that you have to call each other. That limit will be less when you're married. You get newly married, it'll be pretty low. As you get older, it'll be a little bit higher. Again, I also like the idea of a certain amount of, discretionary spending every month that you don't have to account for. Again, but you have that in case you want to do that. Again, make sure if you're not on the same page, teach. Give your spouse opportunities. Go with them to learn this. My wife is taking a Chinese class now, and so Tuesdays and Thursdays, I get to go to Chinese 1 or 2. And it's really fun because my Chinese is pretty poor anyway. But I'm with her as she's learning it, and I'm offering her support, and I think it makes it easier for her. Likewise, if you have a spouse and you want to take some classes together, even though you've been through a lot of this, it means a lot. 3, unified family goals as a couple. Make sure you're moving in the same direction. A lot of times the challenge is people don't know what they're working for. 2 spouses, they're both working toward different things. So what you need to do is, again, on that triangle, work together with Heavenly Father to figure out what should your goals be. Again, the question 2 is how do you work if 2 people have different opinions? I loved what Michaela said this morning in class. So when she and her husband have different opinions on what they should do, they say, okay, let's switch the bedroom. So your position is, you've got to advocate. My position is A and yours is B. Now you have to advocate A and I'll advocate B. So they switch the bedroom just like you switch the classroom. And then what they have to do is they have to articulate the points from the other person's point of view. And what it does is it helps people to see things just a little bit different. Again, if you're concerned about your partner's spendings, I like D&C 121, 34 to 46. I'd encourage you to memorize it. No power or influence can or ought to. I haven't memorized that. Can or ought to be maintained by virtue of the finances. Only by persuasion, by long suffering, by gentleness and meekness, and love unfeigned, by kindness and pure knowledge. You too.
No load.
And then separate real from imagined problems. Too many times that money or that things are tangible and we associate things with them. So make sure we understand what the real problems are and not just kind of what the results are. Again, set up an established time on your stewardship council meeting and make sure you do that like Nathan said, every week. at a certain time, and so you know that this is the time where you'll talk about finances. 4, keep the romance alive. Again, appropriate to have a date with our wives each week. And then I recommend time alone each quarter, and then time each year, which is the two of you. Go. Just realize once your kids are grown, it's just the two of you, and you want to make sure that you still have that relationship there. And it's not a bad thing, and they don't have to be expensive trips, but you just need to do it. And then I'll always assume the best. Always assume your spouse is trying. Always assume based on the things that they're doing the best based on what they know, their knowledge and their knowledge base. So, what do you think research has found? You know, we've come up with these principles and these recommendations. We've already talked about equality. You know, social research has found that equal marriages, that equality in marriage leads to better marriages, higher marital satisfaction, and a better environment for raising your kids and better kids. How about the materialism? You think that helps or hurts marriages? When one spouse likes things over people. This is from an article, Materialism, Perceived Financial Problems and Marital Satisfaction, from Dean, Carroll, and Yale. So it says this: materialism has been defined as the importance a consumer attaches to worldly possessions and a person's interest in getting and spending. According to Riches and Dawson's, there are at least 3 traits of individuals who subscribe to a materialistic ideology. A, acquisition is the pursuit of happiness. B, possession defines success. And C, acquisition centrality. First, materialistic individuals tend to need possessions to be content with their life situation, and therefore prefer to pursue happiness by acquiring and using possessions. So that's in order to be content, they have to spend. 2, second, materialistic individuals tend to judge a person's success in life by the quantity and quality of their material possessions and financial assets. Thus, an individual with a materialistic orientation is more likely to attribute greater success to their neighbor who drives a luxury car than to a neighbor who drives an economy car or rides a bicycle. Finally, materialistic individuals consider possessions to be a central aspect of their lives. That is, materialistic people tend to direct their thoughts and behaviors toward possessions over other pursuits, such as personal relationships, social experiences, or intellectual enrichment. So what do you think? Does materialism add to the happiness of marriage, or does it detract? So analysis confirmed, 1, that higher levels of spousal materialism are associated with increased perceptions of financial problems, which in turn are negatively associated with levels of marital satisfaction. So the more materialistic people are, the more that they perceive their financial problems to be worse, and the more that affects their levels of their satisfaction in their marriage. 2, analysis also found that materialistic attitudes have a stronger impact on spouses' perceptions of financial problems and do levels of coupled income. So the more materialistic they are, the more it impacts their views of financial problems. Then does income. I think that's amazing. These findings support the notion that materialism contributes to how couples define and react to financial problems in their relationship, and that these factors indirectly and directly affect general levels of marital satisfaction. It's fun that we have the gospel, we have the proclamation on the family. It tells us the things that are important, it tells us the things that we do. It really is our standard. You know, and we know that not everyone, we have divorce, we have death, we have single parents, we have all of these things, and not everyone's going to be able to reach the standard. But we still need to work on that standard. That standard is still what we strive for. And we've been promised that every blessing, for those who aren't able to read that, every blessing that's been promised will come to them if they'll remain faithful. Was it hard being raised by a dad? You know, thankfully I was 18, so I didn't have as much of a challenge as my younger brother did. But it was important to know that my parents were sealed, that I was sealed to them. I gave when my mom passed away, the one question I asked my dad was, did you give her a blessing? And he said, yes. And I knew if anyone in the world, you can tell what I feel with my dad, that I knew that if he had given her a blessing and she was supposed to live, she would have lived. So I knew there was a reason. It still didn't make it any easier because the next 6 months were really tough. But at least I had that assurance. And we know that. We strive for the ideal. And then we do the best we can, and we know what the Lord will do. So lots of interesting let's go back to that case. Remember this? Because remember the case here? So what are some of the problems that you saw from this email? I'm going to talk about those just quickly. Were they equal partners? No. Other things, other problems.
Their goals were completely different.
Different goals. They were not moving in the same pages. They were not on the same page. How about communication? Felt like there was good communication between the couples? No. And that probably led to the question on respect. Did you feel like there was respect there? No. We're pushing for time, so let me just go through these here. So, marriage partners are equal. Didn't seem like that from the reading. Control of money is power. Again, it seemed like there was a power struggle here. And sometimes when people don't feel they have any say, sometimes they feel that's the only way they can do is go outside again for validation. Unified and in the best interest. Were they working all together? Something was lacking there too. Behavioral issue. Lack of equality in communication are major concerns. Change. People, we're trying to get our own way, or are we just trying to seek what's in the best interest in the family, or are we trying to get our own way? Respect of your parents. So what recommendations do you have for them? We're all tired and we want to get out of here. Let me just share a few thoughts. Build a relationship. First, work to understand. And then seek to be understood. You want to really know how your spouse thinks if you're married? Here's a fun little exercise you can do for a family home evening. Each of you have $100,000. How would you spend it? So write down where would you put it and the dollar amounts to each of the places. And then sit down afterwards and kind of see where it goes. Mark is sitting back there laughing.
I love that idea. That's on that.
Because it is a good idea because you will see how people think. And it's important. And then from that you can kind of make some decisions. Number 2, develop unified individual and family goals. It's not enough to have goals, they have to be unified goals. And to really believe in. And again, here's where prayer comes out. It's seeking the Spirit. Build the financial of the couple and family. One spouse knows more, that's okay. That person should be trying to teach the other one. And realize that people communicate differently. Some people are linear, they can read. Some people are visual, they have to see it in pictures. Figure out how your spouse is or how both of you are, and then work on that. And then seek the Lord's help. He can help us to teach. Resolve family differences. You can't change how you were brought up. Your spouse can't change. But what you can do is you can decide how you're going to raise your kids. Improve your problem-solving skills. Again, the stewardship council meeting, as Nathan talked about, make sure you're doing that every week. Again, in 4 months, he saved 1,000% more than the previous 4 years. Maybe that can be it can be helpful to us, to other people as well. Strengthen their testimonies. Again, since families are ordained of God, God will help. Okay. Talked about a lot of stuff today. Let's spend a couple of minutes. What are your takeaways? Open your digital dialogue box. I'm hoping you'll take the time just to think about it. We go through a lot of materials and a lot of ideas and a lot of different things. The last few minutes really is a time for you just to sit back and think. What's the inspiration that comes? What things can you do when you incorporate this into your lives that can help you and your spouse if you're married, or your future spouse at some point, to do and to be better? What's your first name?
Hannah.
So what are your takeaways today? And what are yours?
I liked the idea of taking a spouse that is not as familiar with it and not as strong in that aspect and giving them the responsibility. Cameron has been really good at inviting me to come, obviously, so I'm open to learning about it, but I think taking the responsibility and sharing that instead of just letting him bounce ideas off and saying, okay, that sounds good, you go do it. I think I need to take more of an active role and participate.
Other takeaways?
I just think one of the biggest things is understanding each other, and I think that not just in financial ways, but all across the board, because I think as you understand why, sometimes like you mentioned, needs versus wants, sometimes to them it is a need, and rather than just pointing out that it's a want, trying to understand why it's a need, and things like that. So I think understanding is...
Someone in the earlier class that said, we need to not only understand how they were brought up, but they said we need to understand what their fears are. And if you can understand each other's fears, it can often help you to understand why they think the way they do and why they come. Other takeaways? Alec, what are yours?
The biggest one was one of your principles, I can't remember which number, but about decreasing your spending rather than just increasing your income. That makes me nervous that what's a good idea if I don't fix my spending habits. No matter added income changes.
My wife says once you get out of school, if you'll live like a student the first 10 years after college, you'll live like a professional afterwards. If you live like a professional the first 10 years after college, you'll live like a student. I like that.
Let's see, my takeaway was usually there are differences in spouses and things financially. And so we're usually working towards a compromise, which is mutually painful. So if you're not focused on the end goal, you can both walk away rather than settle on a shared vision.
So if you have a shared vision, you can walk away happy instead of if you're not focused on that shared vision, then you walk away. What do you think?
It's mutually painful because you're both
And
giving
mutual
something more.
painful compromise. I like that. Again, there's a scripture, D&C 43:34, that says, let the solemnities of eternity rest on our mind. And if we take that long-term view, we'll do so much better. Someone have one more takeaway? Okay, let me just share a couple of thoughts. number one, the important thing is to see your spouse's hand the Father sees them. If you do that and act accordingly, you'll always make the right decision. Number two, preside does not mean you have the final say. You need to work on things until they're unanimity. Number three, Eve's decision was not bad. It doesn't make her daughters inferior. In fact, Eve's decision was a glorious choice that allowed each of us to come to earth. We need to remember that. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on Monday.